Football is more than just the game. It's a mirror to society, reflecting the world's hopes, struggles, and divisions. From the stands to the pitch, nowadays it seems almost impossible to escape politics, whether through player protest, club ownership, or the global stage of international wars. But as the sport unites millions, can it ever truly escape the influence of power, politics, and passion?
In this episode, we explore how the beautiful game became a battleground for much more than just sports, if politics should be involved in football, or if our game should be the last resort for us fans to escape the real world, at least for 90 minutes. Welcome to Football Ultras.
So, Thiago, what role do players play in political activism, like both on and off the pitch?
And bro, I think the influence footballers have is still not really rated enough. Like these days, they can do so much. They have responsibility if they use it wisely. Like prime example for me would be Didier Drogba, who in 2004, 2005, kind of halted the civil war in his country, Ivory Coast, just through football with his team. They qualified for the World Cup. And last minute, I think they saved the penalty of Cameroon. And then the whole country erupted. They were in civil war for a couple of years. They had been fighting. The whole country erupted. They qualified for the World Cup 2006. And after that, he gave like a speech, and then he was like, "We showed today that Ivory Coast, we can all coexist despite our differences." And then everybody forgot about the war. That's how crazy football is.
Wait a minute, Ivory Coast was in a war during the World Cup.
They were, I think that 2002 or something, like for a few years before the World Cup 2006, they were like rebels. I'm not a political expert on that, but I know that they had like a civil war, lots of fighting, lots of troubles, and it's never really been safe. They're like, and then they got that golden generation in football. You know, Yaya Touré was in that squad as well. Yeah. Didier Drogba, Kolo Touré must have been there as well. Like really good generation, and they managed to qualify last minute against Cameroon. Cameroon got a penalty, soft penalty. And the Ivory Coast keeper, the Ivorian keeper, saved that penalty. And then I just saw that the whole stadium erupted and the whole country. They were still in war. Like they were still, but they forgot about that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they made it to the World Cup and that completely united the country. And that's just a prime example. And then that iconic speech on live TV of Didier Drogba saying, "This is how we have to act if we want to coexist together. Let's unite the country." But that was like maximum goosebumps, I think, for everybody in there. And that's just football, and they had a war, and that's how important football is, man.
Yeah, how big it is.
How big?
But I feel like as a club, it is important to be as transparent as possible. I think that's maybe most important in terms of political ideologies.
What do you mean by transparent in this case?
That you mention the situation, that you try to explain it instead of keeping things quiet. For example. There was a terrorist attack in Magdeburg. And then the next day or the next few days, Bremen, they did a banner. I don't know what it said exactly.
Refugees welcome. All refugees welcome. All refugees welcome.
I mean, that is so sensitive and so almost...
Ooh, that's...
Like, as a club, I think you are in the wrong to allow that.
To allow a banner like that?
For sure.
Yeah, that's well, we're getting into the really hot topics here, man. Yeah, Bremen, for those who don't know, their ultras are really left-wing, anti-fascist, similar to St Pauli. St Pauli are even crazier, but Bremen is also similar. So in Germany, like it's obviously a big debate in all of Europe, refugees or not. Like some people are against it. They are really in favor of it, obviously. No, so it's not the first time that they've had this banner. Just for context, they've had it a lot of times.
No, but it's not about the topic.
It's about the timing.
It's about the timing, and it is. Everyone with a few brain cells know that timing was the worst possible, and that it is challenging.
I agree that it seems really tone deaf in this situation.
When we talk about players, the club has the same role in it. Which clubs play a big role in politics?
Oh, well, I have a big example there, which is obviously my other rival club, St Pauli, based in Hamburg, the small club from Hamburg, I would love to say, even though now they play in the first tier and we play in the second Bundesliga.
So who is the smallest?
Yeah, we're still bigger, yeah, but they are the better club in Hamburg, sadly, right now. I think if we talk about politics in football and football clubs that are political, couldn't name a better example than them, because they, even more than Bremen, they stand openly for that political leftism, anti-fascism, pro-immigration. Like they are really like many communists in there as well. Like they are really, really far left. And the club says like openly says that as well, of course. Some people even say they are a political institution that also play football. But there, I think the transparency thing, I respect it. I respect their values. I've met a lot of St. Pauli fans, even though they're my rivals. They're great people, right? Like they are really cool people. But I think in terms of transparency, club, hypocrisy as well. Hypocrisy, that's how you say it.
Can you name an example of
I mean, bro, there's so many examples. Like,
but
look,
name one.
St. Pauli stand for like anti-capitalism, like anti-consumerism. So what they did is they used to have another shirt supplier, and then all of a sudden the club announced, okay, there's no big company that can satisfy our values for sustainability, green production, like environmental production that's environmentally friendly, sustainable. So they said none of the big companies can do that. So what they did is they said, we're going to create our own kits. And I actually have the kit here. Let me show it.
For our YouTube
Sorry,
viewers.
I got this as a gift, okay? And it's signed by the whole team. I never bought this. So they did this. They got their own brand, in-house brand, DIY, do it yourself. And they said, now we make our own kits to make sure we have a sustainable production. But the thing is, and that's a good thing, right? Like, that's solid. But the thing is, nobody knew that in the background, it was actually a ghost production. Puma made these kits just under this name. And they were like, yeah, none of the big companies can be as sustainable enough for us. So they were like, oh, we're like, they always be like moral high ground, but in the background is Puma making them. That's just hypocritical as fuck, bro.
Yeah.
And that's just one, bro. St. Pauli has so many examples. Don't get me started on the betting sponsors with St. Pauli.
Okay.
Don't get me started on that.
Explain in short.
Bro, I don't even know if I can say that, but they always say like, we're never going to get a betting sponsor. Never, like, this is against our values. And this, I agree with that. Like, it's fair. But in the background, let's just say the reason why they didn't get a betting sponsor, is not their values. Maybe if a sponsor would have paid more money, they would have definitely got one, because I know they were in talks with betting sponsors.
Okay.
And that's just, bro, I just don't respect that. Be honest about it, bro.
Yeah. I think transparency plays a big role in it. What would you say is the impact of political tensions between countries on football matches or leagues?
Oh, insane. I think you've mentioned the example of Kosovo once.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about that? I have another story as well later.
Where the players like the Shaqiri, Xhaka do these celebrations, and they got a
Albania.
A ban. They even got a ban for it.
The game was Switzerland against Serbia, I think.
Yeah.
I think it happened at the Euros and the World Cup 2018.
Yeah.
And you mean the thing where they did the Albanian?
Yes, the eagle.
Yeah.
Eagle, yeah.
Even though Albania didn't play, but obviously these players are Albanian background, Swiss nationals, Albanian families, and then Serbia, Albania obviously is quite some tension there, right? And they can't play each other.
No, they can't, and I think that is a huge example of where political tensions get to a max. And
that's
outside
crazy.
football.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that are actually banned. Did you know even Spain against Gibraltar is banned?
No.
Yeah, it's banned by UEFA. They can't play in qualifiers.
Why?
Yeah, because Gibraltar, like Spain, or many people in Spain still want to own Gibraltar and take it from the United Kingdom. And I think they had a vote in Gibraltar. They wanted to stay in the UK, but Spain still says it's our country. And then, even though there's like not a war going on, but still this game cannot happen. And another one, I think but talking about wars, there was a football war once. Did you know about that?
No.
There was a football war in 1969. It was Honduras against El Salvador. Have you not heard of that story?
I never heard of it.
I think I've seen it
South America.
A lot of times in short. Yes, Central America, Honduras,
Central
El Salvador. World Cup 1970 qualifier. And that was similar to the Ivory Coast thing. They had really big tensions before. There was no war, but El Salvador, Honduras had like a lot of tensions between them because there was like many migrants, and it was a migration dispute. And the football game, the World Cup 1970 qualifier, actually started that war. They went to war because I think Honduras fans harassed the El Salvador fans in the first leg when they came there, and then in the return leg, bro, like the El Salvador fans completely rioted outside the hotel of Honduras players. Some people died. They killed people there. Like that was just before for football. And after the game, I think Honduras actually lost. I think El Salvador won. And immediately after the game, both countries expelled every migrant that they had from the other country to the other country,
Wow.
and officially declared war. And I think they fought for like only 4 days, but I think like 2,000 people died in this war.
So the football match was the
So
final
the tensions,
straw.
exactly, the tensions were there. Then they had a football match where fans went crazy, and that's the thing. Football reflects the real world, so that you can't escape the real political tensions. Quite the opposite. It's being like they're just getting crazier because of football. And then after the game, from tensions, a war
Yeah.
started. That's
Up-
crazy.
I think also the most recent event that happened, which was really sad, was Ajax Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Oh yeah.
Where, of course, in Amsterdam, there are also a lot of people protesting against Israel for Palestina. And when a club from Israel comes to Amsterdam to play a game of football, the situation became only and solely political and not about football.
That's sad. Man.
So all the 3,000 Maccabi Tel Aviv fans came to the stadium. There are enough footage or videos on the internet where they also provoke some things against Palestina.
I think it wasn't only pure football fans in there as well, right?
No,
Was
I
it
think
not the rumor that was also
that's
like
often the case in European duels. Like 90% is in a wave and that comes for football, but there's always 10% that comes there to riot or to do that kind of things. And
it's crazy.
After the match, people with the Dutch nationality stood up for Palestina and they hunted Jews in the city. I mean, to have that in 2024
That's
is
crazy.
Is
especially
nuts.
in Amsterdam where
it happened.
happened in the
80
40s.
years ago. Yeah. So that was scary.
That's just really fucked up probably from both sides. So like that just is not supposed to
Yeah,
happen.
it's like without saying like that you choose one side. It is a fucked up situation.
It's not. This should never happen in football. Never, and especially not in football, which is a game that's supposed to unite us.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. Like you
But
cannot
we-
escape it.
Even with this recent situation, because you named something that happened 40 years ago and this happened 4 weeks ago, like, do you ever think football can truly ever be apolitical, or will it always reflect the wider world around it?
I say clearly, it's always a reflection of the real world.
Yeah.
In terms of it can solve political conflicts, maybe just like it did for Ivory Coast. There was a war, and after the game there was no war, or they halted the war. They managed to unite people. But sadly, that's how it should be, right? But sadly, for every moment like that, we have a moment like Amsterdam, or like the El Salvador, Honduras one, where football does the opposite, where it even fuels the tension. Sadly, so I do think people in Germany always say, or in many countries say, politics do not belong in football. Football should be unpolitical. They say that. Many people say that, but even those that say it, they know it will never not be political.
But do you agree with that statement? Do you agree that football shouldn't be political? So, for example, one more example about Ajax. There were some Palestina flags in the stadium, and the ultras made sure that there are no political expressions because they
so
also
the ultras of Ajax banned the Palestine flags.
Yeah, but also no more Israeli flag, I think, because they
usually
say
they have a
they're
lot of them.
Jews. Yeah, but for example, like, do you agree that in football stadiums there shouldn't be political expressions?
No. I
No?
wouldn't generalize that. No.
Why?
Because I think I wouldn't generalize that, because I think some things I wouldn't even consider them political, but some core values of the beautiful game: unity, inclusion, fair play, respect. Do you consider that political? Because if you consider that political,
the thing about me, and that's what I underestimate. I see it as normal. So I hope to see every human as a human
exactly,
being.
that's the thing. You don't consider it political, but if you say that's politics, then I say, yeah, politics should be in football. But on the conflicts where you like this Israel-Palestine thing, stuff like that, or the thing where two countries are almost at war with each other and then they express this in football. In these situations, obviously, I think it's better to just stick with what happens on the pitch. But there are some common values of the beautiful game that I think should always be at the center of the fans. like when you fight like political extremists in any direction, then I think football should step in to promote its values of unity, of equality, of freedom, of respect. But that's for me, it's just common sense. It's not really politics.
But I'm talking here about expressions, and I think for
Okay.
at football matches there should be no expressions of any sort of kind, because the focus should be on supporting the team and being there about football, and not about if you are someone with left ideologies or right ideologies. But because
Fair.
then also you're gonna have a lot of sensitivity in the stadium. Your neighbor is probably
True.
someone who's left, and then the one right is someone who votes right, and then it completely loses the focus of the beautiful sport. And that's why I am like, no political expressions in the
Okay.
stadium, please.
I agree
That's-
with that.
That's
It
what I would
should-
love to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like football is supposed to unite, like, no matter if you're left, right, if you're straight, gay, Muslim, Christian, that
you are there for
you're
the
there
club.
to support your team. I
Yeah.
fully agree with that. But on the other hand, you also have to we also have to consider there are clubs that clearly stand for something. Like if St. Pauli has a banner, refugees welcome, then none of their fans will. 99.9% of their fans will agree with that. Nobody will disagree, because this is a club that stands for this. If you are a right-wing person, then you will not support St. Pauli.
But I think
Right?
I think
So
sometimes
then I think it's just normal. You can't say, okay, St. Pauli, please don't be left-wing anymore. It's just, this is inherently the club, you know?
No, but I think sometimes there can be like general actions that support a cause. Like for example, for Ukraine, where people stand still for what happened. I think that's really good. I think once a year to support the LGBTQ community is also really good, because it needs awareness. But to have it every game, like during the season, about it, I think that's
I get you.
that's not what football is about, in my opinion.
I think this topic you can literally go on for ages, and I think everybody will have a different opinion. Some people will say football has the responsibility as a global sport to stand for these values, but then on the other hand, it's like, okay, what are the exact values? Some people say LGBTQ is a value of football, others say it isn't, right? This is just, I think you will never find a definite answer, but it's a game of opinions, right?
Time for our next segment, debunking
Debunking the
myths.
Debunking myths.
Political protests in football stadium are always disruptive and harmful to the sport.
What do you consider a political protest in a stadium? Do you have an example for that?
For example, the World Cup of Qatar that was announced, and then you saw a lot of protests against it.
In European stadiums mostly,
Yeah.
okay, not in the World Cup itself, but before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about the Netherlands, but I think in Germany, I think in Italy as well, almost every big club had a protest right before the HSV had that as well. This is a protest, we have to say, this is always organized by the ultras, of course, right? And this doesn't mean that the whole fan base obviously agrees with it, but I think, why would you not allow the ultras to express their opinion there? I don't think it should be banned, and I don't think it's necessarily harmful to the sport, because what I rather think is harmful is when you try to suppress the voice of the fans and the voice of the ultras. That is harmful to the sport. So as long, obviously, as the things that they display there are not something that goes against human rights or like crazy extremist stuff, I think, why would you suppress that?
Ultras are always far right.
Wow, that's a crazy myth. I think it really depends on the country. I think in Eastern Europe, they tend to be more right politically than in other countries. In Germany, for example, you have the hooligans. These are almost always far right. And then the ultras are diverse. Like, they are, I would say, rather, there's more ultra groups in Germany that are more left-wing than right-wing. So that you can never generalize that. Of course, there's certain clubs where you say, okay, their ultras are more or less mostly right-wing. The ultras are more or less
Do you have an example
left.
of a right-wing club in Germany?
Yeah, this is a really big cliche, and I know that fans will hate me for this, but Hansa Rostock would be one that immediately comes to my mind, where they have a left ultra group as well. They have, obviously, there's different ultra groups. There's not just the ultras, but the majority of their ultras are said to be very, very right-wing.
Do you have an example?
Hansa Rostock.
Yeah, but what did they do that expressed them to be far right?
Oh, this one that goes very deep. I'm not saying they did it, but Rostock has a history of neo-Nazism
Okay.
and Nazism. Like there's a lot of people that are like that literally hate anyone that's not German or that's not white. So and I'm not saying this is all Rostock Ultras, but there's definitely some people in the Ultras that belong to this group. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And then not just right wing, but Rostock have like crazy videos almost every week where away fans go there, and then that's more hooligans, but they will stop the buses of away fans going to Rostock, and they will stop them and they will throw stones at them and they will try to fight them. Like they have a really real big history of fan violence.
Crazy.
And that's always like people always talk in Germany. It's like horrible fans in terms of what they do. It's like people always say, "Oh, Rostock." Maybe we're like people are exaggerating as well, but there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
Do you have an example in the Netherlands?
No, I don't really have one. In the Netherlands, there's not really a club like St Pauli or Bremen. We don't have like a typical far left club or a far right club.
Would you say?
And that's
clubs-
what I love.
Yeah, you like that. Would you say Dutch clubs are generally less political than German ones?
Yeah, 100%.
In Spain, Barça comes to my mind. They are traditionally quite a left-wing club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Visca Catalonia.
Yeah, and that's also a thing when Barcelona always post like the I don't even know what's it called, LGBTQ day. There's like a day of them in the year where they celebrate like rainbow flag LGBTQ, and Barça will always post that, but they will not post that on their Arab socials, obviously. But even on their main socials, they will always post like an LGBTQ flag. We respect, we stand, we support diversity, stuff like that.
But isn't that hypocritical?
No, I'm not saying it's hypocritical. I'm not saying it's hypocritical. I'm saying they are like basically a left-wing club. And so it's normal that they would post this, in my opinion. Like, even you might agree, you might not agree.
Isn't it?
But like the craziest thing I find is you have Barca fans on that post saying, "This is not my club anymore. My club has changed. Like, get that shit out." And you're like, bro, you're a Barca fan. You should know the values of your club. Even if you don't agree with like LGBTQ, you should be aware of the fact that your club is a more like mostly left-wing club. So then just choose another club if you don't like that.
Isn't it hypocritical from a club to post it on every account except Arabic?
That, of course. That of course. Either you stand for it or you don't. Obviously, they don't post it in the Arab world because they know they'll get a ton of hate.
I find that so hypocritical.
But I also find it hypocritical from the fans that will comment on that and will hate on their club, because then it just shows they don't really know the values of their club. Yeah. Because it is a left-wing club. Obviously, they will post that.
But
that's
it
the thing.
It is not normal to hate on an LGBTQ, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic. But football fans are, how they are.
Yeah, but
every club will get hate for that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying you have to agree with that. But how can you hate on it when you're a Barca fan? If it was a club that is usually non-political, like there are clubs that don't participate in politics, posting it, you can hate. But in Barca, you just show that you don't know the values of your club.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange for me.
Okay, time for our segment. What the fucking hell is that? Finn, Lazio fans, what comes to mind when you hear the word Lazio?
I should have mentioned them as well when I talked about really right-wing clubs. I know I will always get hate for this because Lazio fans have been fighting it now. Like, there's a big group that are fighting it, but Lazio, it's not without a reason that they are often called Lazio with an N instead of an L in front. Because they have a really big history of neo-Nazism. And what they did last year, the small core that is crazy right-wing, was just that way over the top. That
because Lazio played an away game at Bayern München.
Correct. They played in the Champions League
quarterfinals,
round of 16 or quarterfinals, one of those.
Round of 16.
And then about 100 Lazio fans, like the real core, like hooligans, neo-Nazis, came to Munich to the Hofbräuhaus, which is a traditional German beer place where a certain Austrian painter back in the days, he really liked it, and then it was like his place where he announced like a lot of things. So it's a historical place for people that still worship him to go, and they chose that place with 100 people. They stayed there,
and to be
hours.
clear, that painter became a huge name in history.
Yeah,
In
for
the
all the
wrong-
wrong reasons.
In all the wrong reasons.
And they chose that place and they booked that place and they stayed the night before the game. They stayed there and they sang, let's call it by his name. They sang Hitler's chants all night in that place, and they made like the greeting as well. Like, bro, that how crazy, how like in a negative way can you be to do that in Germany, in the place where Hitler basically mostly stayed? Like, it was all deliberate, and then you just see that's just what the fucking hell is that?
yeah.
And then I called them out back in the days. I was like, this is why Lazio is still has these stereotypes. And then their fans went crazy at me. They were like, oh, it's just a small number of people. Yeah, but you haven't managed to get these people out of Lazio for decades now. For me, this just sheds a crazy bad light on a club. Yeah, and that I think against this, football fans must always stand. And I think this is not political to stand against this.
Yeah.
It's just human. Just being a human. Yeah.
A question from Lars F. He asks, what is the most favorite club you have been to outside of HSV? Where if HSV didn't exist, which club would you choose?
Oh, wow. You will be happy about that. I will probably go with Köln, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
for me,
FC Köln.
yeah, it's probably Köln because I'm a member as well since 2005 at Köln. My whole German family supports them. My uncle, my grandpa supported them. My mom supports them. So he registered me as a member. I still became a HSV fan, but Köln is still always like, in Germany, it's always got the second place in my heart. When Köln was still up there in the Bundesliga, I said my Bundesliga team is Köln, my second Bundesliga team is HSV. Now they're both down there, but it's Köln, bro. What would be yours?
I would love to have been born in. I'm happy with Cologne, of course.
You're happy.
But or happy. I'm more than satisfied. It's my heart. But I would have loved to have been born in Lisbon.
Okay.
Bro, that city is
Have
insane.
been born. Then you're
man.
Portuguese, bro.
Bro.
What would you be called? Bernardo
Bernardo. Bernardo.
Bernardo Silva.
Bernardo. He works also. Someone whose name is Bernardo works at the club.
Yeah.
So I always say, hey, you are my Portuguese version.
Your Portuguese broody.
But yeah, no, like, bro, that's like a whole year, good weather, amazing atmosphere every game at Alvalade. That would have been amazing. But that's in another life,
In a parallel universe.
in a parallel universe.
Politics and football, a bit of a sensitive one. Let us know what you think about it, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.